All right, I'm a little late to the party in this one, and I kind of totally understand that, but it's something I've been, let's say, meditating on for a little while now, and it's something I really do want to talk about, and that is the concept of drama on YouTube. Now, a lot of YouTubers have talked about this, but I think most of the ones that have talked about it have sort of missed what I would consider the more important points on that. You know, like PewDiePie's talked about it, and Mark and Jack's Films and all that. But at the same time, you've got guys on the other side of things, guys like H3H3 and Grade A Under A. You've got Leafy and Scarce and Pyrocynical. You've got a lot of people on all sides of this. So I feel like talking about it because it is something that I feel very strongly about. Now, let's start with a very simple question, and that is YouTube changing? Yes. Yes, it is. But the thing is, YouTube has always been changing. Now, speaking as somebody who's been more attentive to the gamer side of things, let me sort of lead you through the timeline, because I have been on YouTube since 2005. Literally since YouTube was first a thought. It was when it was first arrived and introduced to the world. And YouTube was actually introduced as a solution to a problem that the creators had, which was they were trying to search for a certain video and couldn't find it. So they made YouTube, where everyone could upload all the videos as sort of a central hub. Now, in the early days of the gaming YouTube channels, what was running the roost and everything were the angry reviews. And they were spearheaded by James Rolfe, aka the Angry Video Game Nerd. And if you're familiar with him, you know the lineage that he sort of brought about. In fact, this is true. The earliest gaming channel that was on top of the subscription list, I believe it was on top of the gaming subscription list, but it could have been more, was the irate gamer, Chris Bores, who is a meme in his own right. In fact, if you go from there, you'll find JonTron. JonTron started his life doing angry video game reviews. Then things went from there, and then Let's Play channels erupted. And that is where kind of I discovered things. And early on, that was PewDiePie, that was Markiplier, that was Yamimash. Moving on into channels like KSI does a lot of them, and Jacksepticeye and things like that. But that was the next wave of sort of what was the thing on YouTube. Moving from there, a couple years later, we had the reaction channels. And that was a very, very brief star, but they were there. Then we had the prank channels. And then finally, I guess what you'd call the drama channels. Now, what I think's sort of worth mentioning is the fact that the reason drama channels are kind of a thing now is because up until now, YouTube itself had not been a platform in and of itself. YouTube was sort of this little thing off to the side, and yeah, people were getting very popular, but it wasn't its own ecosystem. But now we've gotten to a point where YouTubers are, in a very real sense, on a popularity level the same as people outside of YouTube. You know, whenever YouTube channels are getting more videos, more views, I should say, per day than a lot of big network television stations, then obviously you're going to get people who are very interested in the in and outs of what's happening with these people. And that's also true for Twitch streamers. And that's sort of where YouTube and Twitch drama centralizes along these gamer channels, because obviously, you know, we're dealing with people on computers, so content creators who are on computers are the primary focus of a lot of this content type. Now, when it comes to drama, I think it's important to separate drama into categories. Now, to me, there are three categories of drama. Other channels, I know Grade A Under A has talked about separating into two, but to me, there's three. And I'm going to sort of go down the ladder with them in terms of what I would consider the most respectable down to the least respectable. Now, the most respectable drama channels are, oddly enough, Grade A Under A and H3H3. These are the kind of channels who aren't seeking drama out, but rather they see problems around YouTube, and they have ways of fixing them. They have solutions in mind. And the reason they are going into rants is because they see problems and want to see them fixed. And I would consider this perfectly respectable, good drama, because it's not drama for its own sake. And this is something that has existed forever. You know, people see problems and they want them to get better, so they tackle into them. Now, the secondary kind of drama, and this is the kind that folks like Leafy peddle in, which is something that I'm not a particularly huge fan of, but I don't consider it especially toxic in terms of YouTube, which is sort of the playful, poking fun, roasting kind of channels. Really, if you look at the vast majority of the kind of things that Leafy delves into, and the reason I bring up Leafy is because he is, I mean, it's a meteoric rise. He is exploding in popularity to a level that I think very few channels have done. But what he is doing is he is just sort of having fun roasting other channels. I'm not a huge fan of that. I think that's going after very low-hanging fruit, and I think a lot of his targets will eventually regret, even if they enjoy the brief popularity they have, I think most of them will really not be happy with the fact that they've been in his target. But at the same time, I don't see him as especially purely malicious. You know, he's having fun poking around, and hell, man, even people ask to be on his channel. That people seek out being on the chopping block for him, so that's fine. The truly negative drama level is in the drama alert, and I feel bad for bringing these up, but I know a lot of YouTubers, whenever they talk about this stuff, they won't actually say the name of the channel. Fuck that. I'm just gonna, I'll shoot from the hip. And your guys like Scarce, Pyrocynical, things like that, where they purely peddle in dealing with TMZ, yellow journalism, muckraking around YouTube. Because what it comes down to is, if you look at the three types, guys like H3H3 and Grade A Under A, they would be much happier if the drama didn't exist, and they would be able to make other kinds of videos. Now, the Leafy types, there's always going to be somebody to poke at, and they're doing it mostly with good humor. But on the bottom level, they aren't trying to fix anything. They have no interest in things getting better, but rather are purely just sitting down in the swamp and thriving on drama. And yes, it's true that this is kind of a new thing to YouTube. Do I agree with it? Of course not. I really don't. But at the same time, it's sort of indicative of the fact that YouTube has become a platform in its own right. And the people on YouTube and Twitch streamers as well, they are celebrities to the very much extent that any sort of musicians, television, or minor celebrities anywhere else are celebrities. So of course there are going to be those who prowl around in the shadows and report on them. That isn't a surprise. You know, now me personally, I always sort of ask, what is the effect you're trying to have on the world around you? And I feel like a lot of these drama-centric channels, they're just looking at sort of where the center of popularity is. Because let's not kid ourselves. When you report on drama, when you report on the juicy, salacious stories, it's not hard to bring in view counts and everything like that. Because if you look at, think about TMZ, Gawker, places like that. Oh yeah, maybe Gawker did get in trouble, but let's not forget, until that point, they were huge. Look at someone like Perez Hilton. Perez Hilton was a gargantuan character in media reporting in Hollywood. And it was purely because he would dive into these sort of sensitive stories that a lot of others wouldn't. You know, so when you have all these channels that are sort of reporting on one another, it becomes very simple for any of them to get big, because people inherently are drawn to these electric stories about other channels. Now, Mark used what he called the self-perpetuating cycle of pessimism, which he immediately forgot and called the vicious cycle of pessimism. And I don't agree with that, really, because yellow journalism has been around for as long as journalism's been around. I mean, this is shit that was around in the 1800s. For as long as we've been spreading the word about one another, we have been interested in the negative, dark, dirty, seedy underbelly. And you see a lot of the channels that are around now, and we're talking about these really ugly stories, like this YouTuber got jumped, this YouTuber got swatted, this YouTuber called this other YouTuber a faggot. And we're just sort of, wallowing in the mire. And that's, at least as far as I'm concerned, a negative but very predictable consequence of YouTube coming into its own as a very serious and real media platform. So as much as I consider it a bad thing, it's also a good thing. Now, that's not something I would ever do. And it would be super fucking easy for me to just fall into that production type where I just play Overwatch or something and then just yap about shit that I've read online. Because a lot of these guys, that's all they do. You just play a first-person shooter and you talk about the latest gossip. And that's all this is. Don't get it twisted. These are gossip channels. But at the same time, that's not surprising. But I always ask, what is it that you want to, what do you want your effect to be on the world around you? I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some purely optimistic, positive, never feels bad, never has dark feelings kind of guy. I'm not. Fucking no. If you're on my Twitter, you know goddamn well that I am somebody that has very bleak feelings at times. I drop into depressions and everything like that. But what I want my stamp on the world around me is to be more fun. And yeah, it would be, I could grow the channel a lot more quickly if I decided to go on rants and rave and rage and everything else like that, because I'm actually pretty good at it. I've got the gift of gab. This is not very difficult for me to just start yapping about this, that, or the other thing. But I personally don't want to fall into that lane of content creation. So, but at the same time, I absolutely will watch it now and again, because sometimes you just want to, we've got all these, and I hate the word cyber celebrity or YouTube celebrity, because a celebrity is a celebrity regardless of what platform they're on. But when these people who are at this point fucking millionaires are out there in the world, reminding ourselves that they are in fact human like the rest of us, that tends to make us feel better. So yeah, it doesn't inherently bother me that this shit exists, but it's not something I want to add to. I will absolutely support guys like Ethan of H3H3, or whoever the guy is behind Grade A Under A, because I feel like they are representing the good side of drama. In fact, I don't even really like using the word drama with them, because they are very pointed and they are almost activists trying to fix problems that they see. And occasionally I'll even check out some of the roasty types, but that's not something I personally want to be a part of. But I do want to, I wanted to explain that, as much of an issue as maybe it may seem to a lot of people, I don't think it is the cataclysmic downfall of YouTube that others have said. And at the same time, You know, think of the timeline of YouTube. YouTube opened in 2005. It is 2016, so this is 11 years of YouTube. Now, in this, we have seen, as I've mentioned, from the angry reviews, to the Let's Players, to the reactors, to the prankers, to the drama channels. That's 5 very separate, I guess you'd call them zeitgeists on YouTube. And in that time period, that is roughly a third of how long The Simpsons has been on the air. You know, in that time period, The Big Bang Theory has just sat on the top of television. You know, YouTube changes very often, and who knows what the next thing is going to be. And, you know, I'm excited to see it, and I hope to maybe be a part of it, because as much as I enjoy doing Let's Plays, we can't kid ourselves. Let's Plays are sort of on the out and outs. If you look at the view counts on big Let's Play channels compared to their subscriber counts, they are lower than the drama reporting type channels. Now, I'm curious to see what's going to be down the horizon. But yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to do here is not be so down on the state of YouTube. YouTube has a lot of fucking problems. And one of my favorite videos on this is actually Grade A Under A. I will suck his dick all day long, talking about the problem with the content strikes and the content ID and all that shit. And there are some certainly problems. But the climate of YouTube, I don't think is so horrible. It's really not. And, you know, and if you enjoy those kinds of channels, I don't think you should feel bad about it. Because, you know, these channels, I mean, if you were talking 5-6 years ago, YouTubers weren't worth talking about. No, there was no channels that were worth having channels talking about them. But things are different now. YouTubers are they're a fucking big deal. When YouTubers are getting 5-6 million views per day, that is every bit as much of a celebrity as The Tonight Show or The Daily Show or, you know, any of that other things. And it's more of symptomatic of how much YouTube has grown overall. So I consider that kind of good. Is wallowing in drama good? No. Is the fact that some people are wallowing in drama good? Yes. So, I guess if you had to distill all this down into one message, it's relax. Things are okay. Things are really okay. Things are great. YouTube is better than it has ever been. You know, there are so many channels to see, so much amazing content to look at. And you know, you have so much to enjoy. So, everyone just be cool. That's all I've got for now. I really wanted to get that off my chest because I think too many people are being too negative on either side of things. And, I mean, my stupid little video is not going to make a difference. But maybe if a couple of people see it, it's cool. So, alright. I'm going to get more into gaming. That's how I end every vlog. I say, all right, time to get more into gaming. But I mean it. So, yeah. Maybe I'll do more videos like this over time. But for now, I said my piece. I feel good. Hopefully you feel okay. So, I will see you next time, dudes.